Hi, Steve.
Hi, Jim.
The past couple of years and into this year, we're seeing a lot of 50th anniversaries for albums and artists and songs. And that is truly impressive. But you want to know what's really, really impressive?
What's that, Jim?
A 60th anniversary. And hello and welcome everyone to Two Guys Talking About Records, a vinyl community podcast where each week we two guys get together and wouldn't you know it, we talk about records. We have got a fun one scheduled for today. My name is Jim and I own a record store.
And I am Steve, a record collector that's gone past that 60 mark by a ways.
Not too far for me on that 60 mark, but past it. But we have got a special guest coming up here in just a couple of moments. We're going to be speaking with Robert Lee Balderrama, who is one of the founding members of Question Mark and the Mysterians. There's a big anniversary coming up with the song 96 Tears and a lot of great stuff to talk about with Bobby here in a couple of moments. I'm looking forward to this, Steve.
So am I. It's going to be very exciting, and I just think super enjoyable interview is on the way.
Very cool. But you know what? Before we get to that, and everybody's like, "Oh, come on, let's get to the interesting stuff now." Let's cover our most recent pickups. We'll knock these things out, and then we'll get to Bobby here in a minute. How was your week in picking up some records?
Well, I would say it was busier than the past couple
Okay.
months.
Well,
So
good, because I think you had a package coming from Michigan.
yeah, I did. I had two packages. Hit me from
Oh,
Michigan, and my kids are now finding, Dad, you really get a lot of records, don't you?
it's like, well, yeah.
Yeah, you have no idea, kids. You have no idea. But I did, and first one brand new, and this is Violet Grohl. Violet Grohl is Dave Grohl's daughter, and
Yep.
I think she turned 20 or something. And I didn't know. I saw a thing on YouTube, just went for her single, and this is in a violet type colored vinyl that's pretty shiny and cool. So I saw this thing on YouTube and I go, I really kind of like this song. Not even thinking about Dave Grohl's daughter whatsoever. I just thought this thing really rocks. And so I had Jim check. There was one I wanted, but it was kind of limited. So I got the indie exclusive.
Yep.
Very much a feel of Foo Fighters is in here.
Yep.
You definitely you can feel Dave in there, but she does her own thing and she rocks really hard. This was a very good album. Really liking it, enjoying it. Good voice, and really comes at you.
Cool.
Then, funny, we're going to be talking about probably one of the greatest garage rock songs of all time.
Yep.
And in the 80s, garage rock made a big comeback, and one of the kings of garage rock was from this album, Chesterfield Kings. And this is Stomp. I think it's their second album. They knew how to make garage rock. And the 80s had such an incredible revival of garage rock. And you and I both are fans of that era. And
Yep.
this is no exception. I have picked up a lot of garage rock, but hundreds and probably thousands of albums were made in the 80s, garage rock influence because of the 60s,
Yep.
and because of our special guest that's going to be on. So this just kind of shows legacy, his group's legacy. So
Yep.
excellent album. Then this is a group called the Golden Dawn and Power Plant. Australian group, I believe they're from Australia, put out one album. By the time the album came out, they had already pretty much broken up. So it was, done, one and done for them. But they've gotten back together here and there. One of those 60s psych albums. One I had before the flood, hadn't gotten it back in, been on my want list, and finally kind of came up at a price I wanted off international artists. They actually, when this was going to come out, International Artist was going to put it out, but they thought, nope, they put this album on hold because they had an album from the 13th Floor Elevators that they wanted to put out, their very
Uh-huh.
first album. So that went out first. Then comes this, and then all the critics are going, "Oh, well, they're kind of like the 13th Floor Elevators, like copycats." And this album was first, but then they get kind of the, "Oh, you guys just copying the other group." So, yeah, one of those fun stories. Uh, Part of the blues, they're coming out from Acoustic Sounds. Buddy Guy, I Was Walking Through the Woods.
Yep.
I've never heard this Buddy Guy album, but I've been picking up a number of early Buddy Guy. And this was from, I believe, 1970 that it came out. So haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but kind of looking forward to this thing. Not kind of, I am looking forward. It's not a kind of thing. It should be great. Buddy Guy, early Buddy Guy, he was just on fire. And even though Chess said his music was too loud to play, but he went to Vanguard, and Vanguard appreciated it. Though this is on Chess Records.
Yep.
And finally, thanks to Jim, and Jim's,
You're welcome.
steering. But I did enjoy the two from Engine de Portrine, or however it's supposed to be said, because I can't pronounce anything right if you paid me. But I did buy both their albums, and I found them enjoyable. They're different, but the guitar playing and the drumming is pretty phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
It really, it's interesting. It's how they take it. The time signal changes, the loops. You can just. And I was watching a video of them today because the first time I couldn't stand them when I watched the video. I was watching one today, and I was watching him make these loops as he's going. He's playing a certain thing, he's hitting that, then he goes into the next thing, hits it, and adding in the loops. And it became more interesting, not about the costumes that they wear. For those on Spotify, if you haven't heard of them, they wear these origami costumes. It's like
Paper mache-ish. Yes.
Yeah, paper mache, and it's like, yeah. And as I kind of bitched about, one looks like a condom, and the other one just looks like origami went wrong.
Yep.
And they paint themselves up, but their music is very interesting. Interesting in a good way. It won't appeal to everyone. I'm going to say that it's not like, God, that's catchy, and I just, you're whistling it down the street. I don't think you will ever whistle one of their songs as you're walking down the street.
Nope. But learning the lyrics is fairly easy. It's just stop, zip, 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 zip.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm glad the FOMO is paying off a little bit on those, because I'm as we've talked about, I agree with you. Listening to the music, for me at least, and for you, it seems, is different than watching them play the music. It's neat to watch their structuring, but man, those costumes get distracting. Maybe I'm just a get off my lawn type of guy today.
It might be. I had viewers. I showed them on my early morning Sunday show today, and I already had comments. Oh, I love that video. When I saw it, that was just great. And I go, well, and I know some people did. Obviously, they did because they took off. That KXAP thing, they went big. People loved it, but there's just some of us, and maybe because we're older, we're just going, well, okay. Well, Kiss already did that, didn't they? Except they didn't use paper mache.
Yep. Well, cool. That's your batch.
That's my batch, Jim,
right.
and I'm sticking to it.
There you go. I've got just a couple today. Fairly common, but a neat ad. It's a Billy Squier album, Emotions in Motion. I didn't have this in there. I've got Don't Say No. And between those two, I'm good with Billy Squier, but this one still has the hype sticker, and it still has, Steve, and this was our predecessors here in Midland. It's got a price tag from the Turntable in Midland, which we're happy to take up the mantle of the Turntable for all those years. $7.59 original price, but just great, solid 80s rock. I do have that soft spot for the 80s rock, and Billy Squier is amongst them. Next one was a bootleg. This one I feel could be kicked in for some false advertising. It's the Yardbirds, but then it says Rod Stewart, Jeff Beck, I've been drinking again. Okay, so Jeff Beck obviously was a member of the Yardbirds prior to Jimmy Page taking over and after Clapton. But this billing, it's one of those early bootlegs too, so there's nothing on there. And the labels are blank also, so you got to kind of guess which side is which unless you're looking at the runouts. But it's got Rock My Plimsoll on there. I've been drinking again, Shapes in Mind, Steel Blues. There's a couple of cuts on here from Keith Relf, who was the lead singer for the Yardbirds. And I did know this history. He electrocuted himself accidentally in the 70s, killed himself messing with a guitar amp or guitar. But the very first song is I've Been Drinking Again with Rod Stewart and Jeff Beck, which, according to what I read, nothing to do with the Yardbirds, but Rod Stewart had sung on Jeff Beck's first solo album, post Yardbirds, called Truth, and the song I've Been Drinking Again was from those sessions, but not included on Truth. So for whatever reason, it was thrown on this quasi Yardbirds album, which does feature a lot of Jeff Beck solo stuff, but a couple of Stewart. It's just this weird hodgepodge of early demos and stuff going in there that are Beck and the Yardbirds and Ralph. So very cool. Sounds good though too. So neat to have. I know you're a huge Yardbirds fan. So.
Yeah, I sure am.
This one, I don't know as if I'm going to find a sound sample for, but I'll try and we'll see what happens. It's this interesting jazz album called 8 Men in Search of a Drummer. It's a jazz band music from the -1 series. And the idea with this, Steve, is that it's a bunch of jazz cuts that were recorded without a drummer. And what you do then as a drummer and learning to play the drums, you use the music book that's contained within, and you play your drum set along with the record because there's no drumming on there. So you're learning how to play it. It's 8 Men in Search of a Drummer. It's cool instrumental jazz minus a drummer. And if I had a set, I'd set it up and pretend I knew how to play still.
Yeah, you can be
the drummer through there. It's the John Laporte Quintet, but it says 8 men, so it says quintet/octet. So I don't know if that means there's a whole 8 of them and the drummer makes 9. I guess I'm a little. We'll figure it out. We'll see if I go. All right, so that is it for me. And folks, if you want to hear some of the music that we talk about today, all you have to do is look for the playlist to a Spotify playlist rather. The link is in the description of anywhere you're watching it or listening to today's podcast. Click on that and you will hear the goodies.
I can't. So for a second week in a row, or maybe I guess it's 2 weeks ago that you played that on Gene thing. So you get to hear it again, Jim.
We'll put 1 or 2 more cuts in. How's that?
There we go.
Well, joining us now on Two Guys Talking About Records, we are bringing in not just a third guy to talk about records, but a legend. And I guess I dare say probably one of the godfathers of garage rock music, Mr. Robert Lee Balderrama, founding member, lead guitarist of Question Mark and the Mysterians. You are the Mysterian of the Mysterians, pretty much. I know it's a bunch of guys, but man, you were there, Bobby. Welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us today.
And thank you for having me, Jim. And I appreciate being here. And I look forward for our concert coming up and everything. Yeah. So thank you.
Well, this is kind of a monumental occasion. We'll get to the concert here in a little bit. This is as of the recording of today's episode. But this year in particular, 2026, marks a very special anniversary, and that is 60 years of 96 Tears. This song that I think was really the benchmark for a lot of garage rock music to come. First off, congrats on reaching that milestone, and the fact that you guys are still around and kicking it to be able to enjoy this kind of anniversary is impressive.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. We're all old, but we're still here. I mean, we lost a member that actually played at 96 Tears, but he was not the original. He just happened to be at the right place at the right time. But it was Question Mark's brother-in-law, so it worked out great. But he passed away almost 10 years ago, I think, from illness. But anyway, we're all the originals are still here, though.
Very, very cool.
Bobby, when I look at the back cover of the of your album,
Mm-hmm.
you guys look so young. How old were you when you did that?
Well, Frankie was 15 and I was 16, and he was in the 8th grade and I was in the 9th grade. We were kids.
Kid, that's kind of mind blowing to at that age to have a song that goes worldwide and goes up, and you're not even out of high school yet.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was amazing because I'd be walking down the hall when the song started getting played locally, and people say, "There's that guy with the hit record," and I kept thinking, "Are they talking about somebody else?" I didn't, I wasn't used to that, what do you call it, being known, or whatever,
Yeah.
and so I thought they were talking about somebody else, to be honest with you. But 96 Years was such a great song that caught everybody's attention. It really did.
Oh, it's so catchy. It's what what I call an earworm song. It gets into your brain and it doesn't get out, whether you like it or not. It's
Yeah.
going to just sit there and rattle around.
And you know what it was, though? You know what mainly caused that, right? You know what it caused that?
What's that?
What?
The keyboards, Frank's keyboards. And it was so crazy because, see, we were at practice, at my house, my parents' house. We lived in between Auburn and Bay City. We lived in a farm. We would practice in a garage, And anyway, we were watching Shindig, and here comes Day Clark 5. And the guy's playing it, but he's not, you could tell he was just hitting chords, right? But I go, I love that sound. That sound, House of Rising Sun. It had that sound, And I said, no question, but we got to get a keyboard player. And when 96 Years came out, and Fred go ding ding and dan 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 dan, it caught everybody's attention, And now when there were songs that come out after that, I could hear that ding 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 ding, They would be on top. Before, when you heard keyboards, it was even balanced or lower. But ever since 96 Years came out with that keyboards on top, a lot of people started following that, and it was a catchy way that Frank played, And I told Frank, go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
No. I said I want to come back to that whole. You guys were kind of practicing this in a garage in a couple of minutes, but let's get a little history of the band together. You guys mentioned how young you were. What brought you guys first off to Mid Michigan, and what brought you together as a group, and how did you kind of coalesce into this little clutch that decided to create 96 Years?
Yeah, well, like my parents were migrant workers. We were all from Texas. My parents were there before, the Alamo. My mom was Indian. She was half Indian, and she was from that tribe in Texas by San Antonio, Texas. My brother looked it up, and he mentioned the tribe, but I couldn't remember. But she had a face like an Indian, but she was real white. She was as white as you, Jim. But you look at her face, you could tell she had these high cheekbones, and people would be amazed, I would tell them, yeah, my mom, she's Mexican, but she's got this half part of Indian that from the area. So, they came up from Texas to work in the fields, pick pickles, whole sugar beets, whatever. So they would come back up, and then my brother's got a job at General Motors. Life changed. Yeah. So we stayed up here, and my mom and dad, my brother bought a farm. We had a 40-acre farm between Bay City and Auburn, and that's how it came out. But all the Mexicans came up to work up in the fields because the only kind of Mexican-looking people was here was the Indians, the Iroquois or whatever, and so I would say that's how we came up here, and my family was into music all my life. I can remember we were in Traverse City picking cherries. They had guitars, accordions, and I got a picture of me when I was like 3 years old. I'm looking, but I could tell, like, when I look at my face, I could see I'm listening. I'm listening to my dad and my uncles play, and I was just totally into it. But that's how it started. We came up here, and I started I was into the Ventures. That's who I was into. And my dad taught me how to play guitar, and I could play a little bit. And I go doo-doo-doo-doo, all that stuff. And it was simple to learn. Their melodies were very easy. Hawaii 5-0 was a little tough, but but Pipeline, and all those songs, they were great songs to play. And so, I mean, that's how we started. And then me and my nephew Larry Borges would practice. My sister said, you guys need to start a band. And I go, she's right. So I told Larry, I said, let's start a band. And he goes, I don't know. Larry was always kind of, and so I was kind of like the driving force. I said, okay, we're going to practice at my house in the garage. And we did. So we were a garage band, we were a 2-car garage band. Anyway, so we were doing better. And so we started out like that. And then we were practicing, and then we went out and played one gig for a Greek celebration they do every year in Saginaw, Michigan. And they did it on the east side. Now they do it really huge in Saginaw. But when they first did it, was at a little small church and everything. And we played there, and we're doing all the ventures, and they're all dancing, having a good time. And somebody came up to me, well, who sings in the band? I go, oh, no. He's going to ruin it, And then all of a sudden, the Beatles come out, and the Rolling Stones came out. And in 1962, they were coming invading the United States. And I was 12 years old. I was 12 years old when I started the band. And Larry was about 4 years older. I mean, so he was 16. They were older than me. But I was kind of like a driving force because the lead guitar player, I would play other, and that's how we started. And then we knew we had to get a singer. So I asked the guys, I said, we need to get a singer. So Robert said, well, my brother sings and he's a great dancer. He wins contests dancing. I said, yeah, let's bring him over. So we tried him out. We did Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, and he nailed it. And he was dancing, and he wanted to show off a little bit. He did the splits in front of us in the garage. And I go, this guy's in.
And that was Rudy, soon to become Question Mark.
Yep, that was Rudy Martinez. Yep.
I just, at age 12, the driving force behind a band, I'm telling you, it's just mind blowing. I mean, the passion, obviously your passion on music was so great.
It was.
To be that kind of driving force at that age. It's just, wow.
It was. I could tell you, see, they were older than me, right? They were 16 years old, Robert and Larry. And so they were into girls. I was into guitar, right? so I would practice all the time, practice, and learn all the adventure songs, and those guys would be on the phone talking to girls, and I'm going out and meet them at McDonald's or whatever in Bay City, and I would be practicing, and I would, and they go, okay, Bobby, what song do you want to do? And so I was like, let's do this song because I already know it. We learned that Wipeout. I said, Robert, I want you to learn Wipeout, So he learned Wipeout. We learned Wipeout, So I was kind of like the driving force of the songs that we picked, and they were all instrumental. But when Question Mark came in, we started doing the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and we were doing a lot of the bands, from the area, that were making it in the United States. But and that's how we started doing. We were a cover band, and that's what we switched over to. And we would play like teen dances in the local area because I was too young to play in bars, so we would do teen dances. That was the big thing, in the 60s.
So how did you guys decide to make the jump from that cover band? Obviously, bringing Question Mark in gives you the added benefit of a vocalist, but then you had to bring in keyboards. But what was the driving element? What happened to say, let's write our own music? And what led to 96 Tears?
Okay, we would watch, American Bandstand, and Question Mark always had this dream. He wanted to be a dancer at American Bandstand. I didn't have that dream. I wanted to be the musician at American Bandstand. I wasn't a dancer, So we had these dreams and goals, like every musician, But the driving force was so much when we got Frankie in the band that he was so talented. The guy had been playing since he was 5 years old. he was definitely a prodigy, and he could play like nobody's business. Now I sit back and watch him play classical music, and when I decided that when I was watching Dave Clark on Shindig, I said we got to get a keyboard player. So my brother said, a friend of mine said he knows a young guy that he was Mexican. We weren't picking races and like that, but he said, well, he's Mexican. I go, well, we'll get along better. I don't know. We could relate,
Yeah.
I don't know, because I didn't look at that. I didn't, I didn't look at races and that. I just wanted to have good musicians, and so we tried him out, and I go, man, this guy's amazing. But I remember calling his house. I got his number. I called his house, and his dad answered the phone. And his dad says, who is it? I said, well, my name is Robert Balderrama, and I play in a band. We're looking for a keyboard player, and I've been told, I said, you sound like the father, because he had a adult voice.
Uh-huh.
And I said, you sound like a father, I said, do you have a son that plays keyboard? And he goes, yes, I do. He goes, but I've been getting him trained to go to Las Vegas. So I just want you to know, and he was kind of a stern voice, like, like, and he goes, yeah, and so I was kind of fearful, because I didn't want to upset him. So he said, I'm setting my son up to go to Las Vegas to play jazz music, I said, well, that's great. Can he play with us while you're setting him up? and he goes, wait a minute, you talk to him. He put me on the phone. I remember saying, can he play with us, while you're getting him ready, and so you talk to him. So I talked to Frank. Frank said, yeah. He goes, I definitely want to play. So his dad, the next day, bought him a Farfisa keyboard, and a little portable Farfisa.
Wow.
And he came over my house, and he set it up and started playing. I was like, damn. I don't know if he's too good for us, and he could play like nobody's been. So we were practicing, at his house. His parents went on vacation or something, and we were practicing. He had a beautiful basement, all fixed up, a bar and everything. His dad worked for General Motors, so he was doing good. And so we were practicing there, and and I was learning this chord. It's a bar chord, and you got to get the index finger all the way across the. So I'm going back and forth. And then the drummer starts playing to it, and then Frankie started going ding, 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 and all of a sudden Question Mark started singing to it, and Question Mark would take this little Mission Impossible. Remember in the 60s and 70s, Mission Impossible, they had a little tape recorder that would smoke and catch on fire.
Yeah.
After the mission, explanation. So Question Mark would take one of those all the time. And he would record all our music so we could sit back and listen to it. And so he was recording it, and I remember him saying that he was gonna. He had it running, and I'm going back and forth, and Frank is doing it. So Question Mark is singing, and he's singing "Too Many Teardrops." That's always in his lyrics, and so when we were done, Eddie Serrato, the drummer, he had taken Robert's place, Martinez, because Robert and Larry were getting drafted. So they joined. So Eddie said, so what, is this a song, Question Mark? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, what are you going to call it? He goes, I'm going to call it Too Many Teardrops. Well, that's what I thought too. And he goes, why don't we give it a number? And I'm looking at him and I think, what number? What are you talking about? He goes, like 69 tears. And I go, I was 15 years old at the time, right? I kind of knew what he meant, but when you're that young, you don't want to act like you're dumb, right? You want to act like you're on top of things. So I kind of knew what it meant, but not really, and I would never say it in words. So, so I said, Ed, you know what? I don't think that's going to work. And Question Mark said, yeah, I don't know about that. He goes, why don't we turn the numbers around? 96. And I said, 96 tears. Hey, that's catchy. Yeah. And Eddie Serrato said, what do you think, Question Mark? He goes, yeah, let's go with that number. That's how the 96 tears name came out. Everything happens for a reason, I believe. Yeah. And it wasn't coincidence. There was a reason behind it, and when I think about it now, it's 96, okay? it was 1966. Okay. When you think about 96 tears, got the six in it, right?
Uh-huh.
In 1966, you got two sixes in it. Okay,
Yeah.
what year is it now? 2026.
Yep.
That's 60 years, and it got the six in. It's all got these sixes in it. There's something there.
Well,
So,
there we have it, folks. It's the sixth there.
so you guys,
Huh?
you
Go
guys
ahead.
got the basis for the song down. You've got the name, and you're moving
Yeah.
forward. So the next step is to make a recording of this to try to get that out to the masses. There's a
Uh-huh.
great story I've heard a couple times, but I'd like to hear you kind of recount that. How did this lead to the actual recording, and what happened after that initial first pressing of the 45 that you guys put together?
Yeah, well, there was I think there was 500 records made. You want to hear the story how it got played on the radio?
Yeah, yeah, please.
Okay,
Well,
okay,
let's start with the recording, because
okay.
it wasn't a traditional recording studio. You guys went from a
No,
garage to another almost garage, pretty much.
yeah, it was a recording. This guy had a recording studio in his back room, and I remember he had like one of them pool tables, not the big pool table, but the small one. I forgot what they call it. And so we had to move the pool table out of the way. It wasn't the small one. It wasn't a big one. And we moved it out of the way. And then he had a closet with and he had a window in there. And his closet was his control room. And I looked in there. When I saw open the door, I go, that looks like a closet. And it was his control room. And so it was his recreation room in the back. That's where it was. The studio was that he would change over, when he wasn't. When he had bands there. But Lily Gonzalez was the lady that sent us there, and she became our manager. And when we recorded 96 Tears, and it took us a while. We went over a bunch of songs, and the guy that was a producer at that studio, his name was Rudy Gonzalez, and he played in a band called Rudy and the Reno Bops. And he had we didn't have a bass player at the time, and so we used his bass player, and he played the bass, an awesome bass player too. And he played this. Frank wrote the bass line. The keyboard player Frankie Rodriguez wrote the bass line. So he showed up and he played it, and we recorded it. And I remember Lily getting a hold of us. And me and Question Mark went to her house, and she had 500 copies. She goes, "Here's 500 copies." Well, and to the radio stations and to the stores, the record stores. Like there was one in basically called Lucky's, and there was one
Oh yeah,
in
yeah.
Saginaw called Howard. And so and I told her, I said, "Well, isn't that the record company's job? You're a distributor, and promote it." She goes, "Yeah, but I do Mexican music, Tejano music. I don't do rock and roll. I know nothing about it." So she said, "You guys go out and just do it." So me and Question Mark, we went to the radio stations like Double K Next, WSAM. They were the local stations. We took it to them, and we took it to the record stores. And we took it. There's one in Bay City, one in Saginaw. And anyway, so I remember one of the DJs was talking about that Dick Wagner
Yeah.
had a band. He had a band called The Boston, and he said, "We're thinking about having a contest between 96 Tears and the Boston song. I think Baby Blue or something like that. I can't remember the name." And I love Dick Wagner's guitar playing, and I go, "Wow, that's great. We're gonna be against him." I felt like we were rising up, because I looked up at the Boston were like the major band in the local area. Pete Woodman, famous drummer. And so when they did the contest, they said everybody call in, tell your friends and family to call in. So when they did it, they called in, and it got to the point where we would win, and then it was so close they would do it again, and Dick Wagner and the Bossman would win. So they went back and forth, and they finally called it a draw. And then the DJ, he told us, he goes, if you guys want to keep hearing your song, tell people to write in, call, get a postcard, and request it. So me and Question Mark went out and bought 100 postcards. You stamp postcards, and we put names like, "Hi, this is Johnny. Me and my girlfriend just broke up. Can you play 96 Tears for me?" And I remember, listen, I would listen to radio heaven all the time because I wanted to hear, if they would play our song. And they started talking about people requested it. And they mentioned one of the names that I wrote, and I couldn't stop laughing. I wrote that.
So that's
my PR.
that original
So
7-inch
that's how it got
45.
played.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that original 7-inch 45 was on Pa Go Go Records. There's only 500 of them. They actually, and Steve and I talk about Discogs a lot, which is this database website that also sells. It's worth a little bit of money, into the triple digits for that original version.
Bobby, what really impressed me about your album is so many garage rock groups, when they did an album, it was mostly covers. Yours, it was all originals. That there's one that's written by someone else, but you did all original music. That blows my mind. Especially you're so young, and you're just knocking out original tunes instead of just taking a bunch of covers. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
I can tell you how that came about. What happened was when we went to the studio, we were in New York, and we had met Neil Bogart, and the producer, and he was the vice president of Cameo Parkway. We got signed with them through Lily's. She worked out a deal with them. But that in itself, what happened was Neil Bogart said, "Well, I hope you got more originals." And we all looked at each other, no. And we go, so me, I love to write. I love to write music, and so we went to the hotel and I started writing left and right, putting all these songs together. And then Frankie was such a great person that he could take what I was doing and he would make it better. And that's how we wrote our songs. So we wrote the songs a night before we went to the studio. And then we were in the studio, Question Mark's writing lyrics down for the songs that me and Frank put together.
Wow, that's amazing. The night in your hotel. Hey, real quick, guys, let's do this. Unbelievable.
So
yeah,
what was
it was just go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so what was it like though, being so young and hitting so quickly? Obviously, when you got picked up by Cameo Parkway, that was probably a whirlwind. You went in, recorded the rest of the album above and beyond the single 96 Tears. What was that like for a group of kids from mid-Michigan to have that happening to them all at once?
It was happening so fast that, about us writing songs and putting it out together that really didn't have time to think about it, just do it. And sometimes that's how you become, you do things, become successful because you're not concentrating, the reason why, you're just doing it, and by doing it, you become a creator. And all my life, I love writing music. I love writing country. I love writing top 40. I love smooth jazz is my favorite because it's guitar, playing. My guitar is my passion. So I love writing music. And that's going to be my future as I get older because I'm 76 now. Playing out is not easy no more. Moving equipment, just playing out, dealing with all of it. When I was young, it was so much fun. But now it's like work. But when I get in front of a guitar and I start creating, it's my love, my passion. And it's always been there from day one, from 96 years until now, and that's been my lifestyle.
I need to ask you, you made it to American Bandstand. Question Mark's big goal in life was to get onto American Bandstand and dance. Did he get a dance?
You know what? No, he didn't. But there was one. We were on our way to do American Bandstand. We had released a song called "Girl, You Captivate Me," and we were on our way to California to do American Bandstand again. Dick Clark loved the Mysterians, Question Mark Mysterians, and he hired us concerts with all these great bands like with Strawberry Alarm Clock. They were amazing band. The Five Americans, Four C, all these band moms. So Dick Clark loved the band, and we would run into him in the airport, and he'd come up and say hi to us, and he goes, "I got something for you guys," and I go, "Wow, that's great." Dick Clark telling us that we were kids, couldn't even imagine him talking to us, And when we did American Band, he took a picture with us. He was so humble. Dick Clark was an amazing person. He was never had an ego. And so it was just enjoyment playing for Dick Clark, and being on an American Bandstand and being on his concerts.
Now, Bobby, you told me a story a little while back about how at the height of all of this, you guys were in New York, and you got a call from your manager saying, "Hey, the Rolling Stones are going to be on Ed Sullivan." And a lot of folks know this song about the controversy of whether or not the Stones were going to be allowed to perform because they did not want to alter their lyrics.
Yep.
But there's a story behind that involves you guys. Tell us again what happened with that and how that could have gone another way.
Yeah, we were in New York. We were in New York City at the time. I think we were recording at the studio there in New York, and we had a call from Neil Bogart, and he says, "Whatever you guys do not leave the room." And we go, "Wow, what the hell's going on?" And he said because the Rolling Stones are scheduled to be on the Ed Sullivan Show, and it's a live show. And he said, but Mick Jagger's words don't fit Ed Sullivan's rules. So they're having a controversy. So if Mick Jagger doesn't want to agree to Ed Sullivan's rules, they're gonna have us on the show. And I go, wow, isn't that exciting to be on Ed Sullivan's show? That would take us up another level, because there was nothing but super groups on there. Young Rascal, they had hits. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, they were all on there. And I kept thinking, we're on there, because I know the Beatles and the Rolling Stones were not on American Bandstand, So Ed Sullivan's show was the next level up. And I kept thinking, Lord, please let it happen. Mick, sing the words like the record. It was all in my mind. But then we get a phone call out. Mick said he's going to follow Ed Sullivan's rules. So we were watching it, right? And I'm watching it. We're watching live. And I'm looking at it, and he sings the words of his song. I'm thinking, Ed Sullivan, he must be choking, right? Choking on his water. And so we didn't do it. And Neil Bogart did call us and say, well, he already said he was going to do it. But Mick Jagger sang the words of the song.
As we've heard.
And I guess they never went back. They never went back on the show again.
That's too bad.
That was a story right there.
Now, your guys' music, the song 96 Tears in particular, has had a really bit of a lasting impact on the music industry. There's a lot of folks that cite that as being an inspiration, something that they just very inspirational, I guess is the great word, something that has really driven them. You've also, and I think Steve and I talked about this a little bit too, really are at the forefront of the garage rock movement. Do you guys see yourselves as kind of the founding fathers of this genre, this subgenre of just raw, gritty, especially mid-Michigan music? There's a lot of other acts that have come behind you that have emulated not necessarily the keyboard and guitar sound, but just that raw, gritty energy of a Midwestern garage moving forward. Do you guys, do you see your importance in creating that kind of a subgenre of rock?
Yeah, I do now. But at the time, when it's happening, you really could put a name on it, But when it after the fact, who was the guy for the magazine Detroit, the Cream magazine, Dave I can't think of his last name, David. He was the editor or writer for, and they had asked Dave. I can't think of his last name, but this is how it came about. They asked him because the Cream magazine was from Detroit, and so he knew about the band. It says, "Hey, who are these guys? Question Mark The Mysterians. They're from Saginaw Bay City area." He goes, "Oh, they're just a bunch of punks," is what he said. And all of a sudden, that's how punk rock came in, because he kind of coined us punks, and then all of a sudden, years later, not too far in advance in the future, punk rock music came in. Mm-hmm. And people started saying, well, how did that name come about? They said, well, Question Mark Mysterians, they were considered, they were all young kids. They were punks. And we were punks. I was like 15, 16. So that slang word didn't bother me. I never let words bother me because when you're Mexican, you hear a lot of things. So I just ignore it. And I never thought about the word punk. And people say, "Well, doesn't it sound kind of a down, like down slam or something?" I said, "I don't know," but they called us that, and now they call grandfathers of punk rock.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll take it. I will take it because it gives us a name and it puts us in a category, and the people followed it. So we did create some kind of a following, a fad, whatever you want to call it, but it's still here. Like rap music, heavy metal, rock music is still
Mhm.
here, and that to me that's amazing to be part of the beginning of it. To say that we were the first one, I don't know. I always thought the band that did Talk Talk, they were definitely first heavy metal looking band.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did. You remember the song Talk Talk by Music Machine?
Yep.
They had all black on, black gloves, and they looked awesome. They had this mysterious look. And they did 96 Years on their album too. That was cool.
That's
But yeah, that's how I think that's how punk rock started. But Dave, I wish I could think of his name, but from Cream Magazine, he kind of coined it.
I'm a big collector of punk rock. That's kind of like one of my favorite genres. And but it was going back and to find all the songs that developed it, which was the garage rock movement. And it's hard to ever find a garage rock compilation without 96 Tears on it because of the importance of that song on what it developed. Short, catchy lyrics, not a lot of guitar
Mhm.
solo happening there, just punching at you and just bam, hits you in the face. And when you're done, you go, damn, that was some awesome music. And so when I listen to punk, definitely I feel the influence that your group did. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
What blows me away is all these famous artists mention us. I just saw recently Dwight Yoakam mentioned, he was hanging out in L.A. during the punk revolution, and he said 96 Tears was on top. Paul McCartney and John Lennon, they mentioned us. I was blown away because I put those guys in a pedestal so high that I couldn't reach them,
Uh-huh.
and to hear them talk about 96 Tears was amazing, just unbelievable. And I have a lot of respect for them. I do. I don't look at other artists as
Mhm.
competition. I look at them as influences, to
Very
learn
Well,
from.
cool.
it's good that respect comes back to you and that there's a lot of respect in the
Thank you.
musical world because you changed music. I mean, your music
Yeah.
began changing, what we listen to and what I personally love.
Okay. Yeah. I always felt that we had something, but when you hear, I saw Bruce Springsteen. He was singing 96 Years on stage with it. He had the lyrics on it. Bob Dylan was in town recently, and he wanted to meet Question Mark.
Huh.
Oh, wow.
And to me that was amazing. That all these great people that I looked up to. I could never imagine standing next to him like Carlos Santana. I want to meet him so bad. I want to do one song with him because I love his style. It
Yes.
was so smooth, but still it was in a rock, you know, genre. But and Carlos Santana to me was probably the most influential guitarist for me, besides George Benson. Carlos was first, and and then Jeff Beck was definitely one of them. But that was early in life. Guitar players have a lot of influences, but Carlos Santana and George Benson was my main one that I followed through. So when you listen to my smooth jazz, you can hear a little bit of Santana, you can
Yep.
hear a little bit of George Benson. I try to incorporate those two together.
We'll get to the smooth jazz here in a moment, but very quickly,
Okay.
I want to mention that as of the recording of today's episode, we are approaching a very, I think, important concert date. You guys are putting on a show in Bay City, Michigan, really kind of where it all began for you 60 years ago to celebrate 60 years of this song and this album, 96 Tears. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And for those of you who are in the mid-Michigan
Yeah.
area that want to enjoy seeing you guys one more time?
I realized it's just our 60th anniversary. Like I said,
A lot of
I think there's
sixes.
something magical about that. All the sixes, and so I had this idea, because as Question Mark Mysterians, we're old now, and Question Mark is like 82 now, and so I figured we should do, a 60th anniversary to promote the idea of 96 Tears being, where it was, and give it, give it more, to it. Instead of it's not about the band, it's not about me, it's not about Question Mark. It's about the song, how it carried on through movies, commercials, and people doing it. So I think it's just a great idea to celebrate the 60th anniversary. I know that each one of us in the band, we're having health problems. We are. I had cancer. I had two cancers, and I'm in remission now for 5 years.
Congrats.
And I say remission because cancer can always come back. So I practice prevention. Question Mark has health issues. We all do, uh, and so I felt this would be a great time to perform. Could be, I'm not saying it is, but we're old, so we don't know if one of us is going to be here next year. So if we can get the original band all together, play 96 Tears, and have at the historical Bay City Museum have a video of us there, so people 20 years from now they can see us, at the original band playing 96 Tears for the last time on the 60th anniversary. To me, that's historical, and to leave that for the people to see in the future. I think it's amazing to do something like that and accomplish it. Even though each one of us are not at the best health, and that's what happens when we get old. You're going to have health problems. You can't avoid that. That's what's going to take each one of us out. But to understand that we have to move forward and to make this happen, even though we're all dealing with that, is so important for us to do. And that's the way I look at it.
So this concert,
Wonderful.
for those of you who are watching and listening to this prior to, is taking place on Sunday, July 12th at Winona Park in Bay City, and it's a free concert. And you've got the Prospect Jazz Band, a local group that are going to be opening. But there's also one other big name
Yeah.
on that ticket, somebody you guys have known for a while too, that's up there performing just before you guys.
Yeah, Larry McCray, and he's an amazing guitar player, singer, and I'm looking forward to. Larry is really starting to make waves right now, and I'm so happy for him, And in fact, I asked him to play one of my smooth jazz songs, and I recorded him. He's got to be on my album, and I want to have on my album. That's what I want to do. But Larry is such amazing, and I known him for, gosh, since the '70s, and I would tell him, I said, Larry, you're an amazing guitar player, but you got amazing voice. So you got that blues voice. He would look at me and goes, Bobby, I love the way you play the blues. I love the blues, but when George Benson came in, my direction changed because I love the smooth style. So I told Larry, you got the voice, and recently times I told Larry, I said, BB King was the number one blues guy of all time. There's other one, Buddy. I mean, who am I thinking of? It's Muddy Waters and all these great. But BB King, he carried it, and he was at the top, and he kept playing. He was like 89, 87, and to me that's amazing. And so I told Larry, I said, he's not here no more. We can't enjoy his live playing. I said, but we can enjoy yours, and you're such an amazing. You're right there. You're as I won't compare it, but you're right there at the same level, And I said, Larry, it's your time now. Take advantage of it. Go out there and do it. And we just both smiled, and he's just an amazing person, very humble.
So you talked about that love of George Benson and
Yeah.
what that means to you and that guitar style. And I mean, George Benson definitely has influenced so many people, but it hits you hard, and you've put together. Are you working on your second album right now? Correct. You already have
I'm
one
working.
out.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing my. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing another album, and this album is gonna be all my friends that I know in the area, local area, that I've seen play as long as I have, and they, and the way I feel, I want to give them the opportunity to get on a song and get it played all over the world. That's my dream, and all my friends to be able to do that. And I already had a couple of my friends play on my last single, and I got Pete Woodman from the Bossman playing drums, and I'm gonna have all these friends that are really good. I'm gonna have Lauren. She plays at Brooklyn Boys Pizza. She's a great flute player, awesome. Uh, Pete Metropolis, great guitar player. I'm gonna have all these guys play. All these people play on my album. But I'm working on my next single. My next single is gonna be called Lake Huron Nights. I love Michigan, so I want to relate to Michigan. My last one, it was called Sunset Beach, which Sunset Beach could be any place, but I was kind of looking at the tropics, like Florida, and down south in Galveston and stuff like that. So the way I see it, it's time for me to promote Michigan. Michigan has been my love and has been good to me,
Mhm.
my family. So I want to write a song. I wrote a song called Great Lakes Bay. I want to write a song, but my next single, I mean, it's going to be called Lake Huron Nights. And in the video, it's going to be about Lake Huron, like Detroit River is part of Lake Huron. You can see the reflection on the water, like Tawas, Oscoda, all these beautiful beaches along the Great Lakes, and so that's my direction. My next single, and my manager loved my next single. He goes, Bobby, I like the song. This is really gonna be a good song, and I believe it is too. And it's gonna be my friends playing on it,
Yeah,
and that's what makes it better.
that's
And
nice. Bobby, where can you find your music? Is it Bandcamp? How if I want to to go out to purchase your music, where do I go?
Yeah, you can download it off of Bandcamp. It's on Spotify. It's on all the streaming media, and you can look that up. And yeah, it's on Bandcamp, and you know, uh, and I sell when I play out too. I sell my CDs out. Live uh, a physical CD. I know CDs. A lot of people don't even have CD players anymore, but I think it'll come back because they have an advance. I don't know where it's going to go from CDs. It looks like it's going back to vinyl. I don't know how that's working right now, but yeah, I'm gonna keep recording. I want to put another album out. And that's gonna be my life is write and record music because as I get older, playing live music, playing live on stage becomes harder.
Sure.
Being in remission from cancer, your body never comes back the way it was.
Okay.
I should
Wow.
mention too that if folks are looking for your music, it's under the Robert Lee Review, correct?
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Well, Bobby, we have
I do want
had
to
a
thank you.
great time talking with you today. It's so interesting to hear some of the history that goes into both 96 Tears and Question Mark and the Mysterians. I'm looking forward to this concert, and hopefully folks can make it out on July if you're, again, listening and watching this before that happens. But if not, they'll be looking for this video that'll end up in the Michigan Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Bay City. But also wish you best of luck with the Robert Lee Review and the continued success with
Thank
your
you.
smooth jazz chapter now.
Thank you very much. I look forward to it. And, I wish we were younger. We could keep going to Question Mark Mysterians, but reality has hit us in the face.
Yeah.
You
And
know
thank
what?
you so much, Jim.
You know what? 60 years is nothing to sneeze at, sir. This is quite the accomplishment. And, I think that
It is.
any artist or band would be envious to be able to say that after 60 years, we're still making that kind of an impression on people with a song that has stood the test of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely
And we're
right.
still here. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I want to do it because we're still here right now. Next year, you never know what the future brings us. But
Exactly.
thank you. thank you both for having me on your show.
Well, we have been talking with Robert Lee Balderrama, Bobby Balderrama. Again, sir, thank you very much for joining us today on Two Guys Talking About Records. Always a pleasure to talk with you. Looking forward to it. And just a great conversation today, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to meet you, Bobby. It was just, this was a highlight. Thank you.
So we're going to wrap that up here,
Thank you,
folks.
Steve. I appreciate it.
You have been watching and listening to Two Guys Talking About Records, a vinyl community podcast. Much thanks again to Robert Lee. And until next time, my name's Jim, and I own a record store.
I'm Steve, a record collector.
Thanks again, everybody.